Right. We will go ahead and get started, and if anybody else joins us, we'll let them in. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Sheila Gold. I'm the Executive Director of Admission at Tulane SOPA. I'm joined by my colleague, Dr. Halima Leek Francis, who's the director of this program, and our other colleague, Ann Conlon, is behind the scenes making the magic happen with the slides and monitoring the chat. What I would love to do, if you all don't mind, is at the bottom of your screen in the chat, I'm actually going to put a message to everyone now. So you should see it pop up. If you wouldn't mind putting your name and where you're calling in from, it gives us a sense of sort of where folks are from and our audience. And we just like to always get to know our students through this process. So you can just drop your name and what city you're calling in from in the chat. You can just respond to where I put welcome. You can find it at the bottom of your screen under the big chat bubble. All right, David's calling in from Thibodeau. Hey, David, thanks for joining us today. I know that this is in the middle of everybody's day. And Catherine is calling in from DC. Well, welcome, Catherine. I hope you're having good weather in DC. I know that spring is a beautiful time. You've got the cherry blossoms coming up. My sister actually lives right outside of DC in Arlington. And I love to visit this time of year. So we're going to go ahead and get started. There is not a big group with us as of right now. So if you all have questions, you can feel free to be a little informal, take yourself off a chat and kind of jump on in. We're going to talk a little bit about Tulane School of Professional Advancement, where it sits within Tulane University. I'm going to talk a little bit about our student support and the application process, and Dr. Leek Francis is going to talk to you more about the nuts and bolts of the actual MPA program. So anytime during this webinar, feel free to unmute yourself and kind of jump on in with a question. We like that interaction. So just a little bit about the School of Professional Advancement. We are a smaller school within the larger Tulane University. Tulane itself was founded in 1834 as the Medical College of Louisiana. It was founded in the 1830s as a response to the yellow fever epidemic, which was terrible in the Gulf South, particularly Louisiana, because we took up so much of that region. The medical college was a response to getting good care on the ground for our own citizens. It very shortly after that became Tulane University, and then about 50 years after that, which is a very short time after the founding of the university, the very first iteration of the School of Professional Advancement was founded. It was founded specifically with the commitment to educate working adults, which is a little bit different than a med school student like the Medical College of Louisiana, or even a traditional undergrad that comes in at 18 years old and has that sort of on-campus residential experience. We particularly wanted to offer the prestige and rigor of a Tulane degree to a working professional, either at the bachelor's level or master's level, who was juggling working, possibly family and home life, while also going back to school. So we have continued to do that for over 130 years. Our newest iteration is the School of Professional Advancement, and we do bring in new ways of approaching flexible, affordable education through online classes. That was not available 130 years ago, but we have been doing it for quite a while. We've been teaching online. We were in that space way before the COVID-19 epidemic. We'll talk a little bit more about how our classes are specifically designed to be taught online, and our faculty are specifically trained to teach in that space. And that is a game changer. It's not like a kind of stale, isolated experience where you sort of self-teach yourself PowerPoint presentations. We have a much more interactive, nuanced design to our courses, where students are challenged. They get to know other students, they create relationships, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. We feel like our faculty and staff are second to none. Halima will touch a little bit more on this, but our faculty at the School of Professional Advancement advancement are all practitioners within the field that they teach, which means that our classes are designed by industry professionals to give students the types of competencies they need to go out into the field after graduation and get jobs. After all, that is the point of getting a degree, is to then be able to get a job afterwards. And we're most current in what the marketplace is looking for in terms of graduates. Our student support at the School of Professional Advancement, I think, is the best in the university. We have our own dedicated advisors. We don't share them with other parts of the university, so our students get incredible support and have access to advisors virtually 7 days a week, certainly 5 days a week, but our advisors are really always in contact with students who need them. We will also talk about our affordability and flexibility. Our price point at the School of Professional Advancement is designed to be at a more accessible price point than the rest of the university, because it's part of our commitment to our own New Orleans community, to being able to offer a Tulane education to our own citizens of Louisiana, and now certainly outside of Louisiana. So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when we get to that slide. And then, of course, the prestige of a Tulane degree. We are recognized nationally, if not internationally. And we know for a fact that our graduates with a Tulane degree, that degree opens doors and are game changers for our students. So we'll talk a little bit about that more throughout the presentation. Just a little bit more about online learning at SOPA. Once again, this is not a sit in your room by yourself, kind of click through a PowerPoint and teach yourself online experience. We at SOPA have on faculty master's level educators, and their particular level or area of expertise is that they're called instructional designers. These are educators who are particularly interested in translating the traditional classroom experience to the online space, which means they look at traditional curriculum and they say, how can we translate that very much to a setting like we're in right now, where we can break out into small groups and have interactions and do group work, where you can have online discussion boards where you interact with your classmates, where you can have group projects that you work on, where you have videos that you can interact with and respond to, interactive simulations. This is not a boring process at all. And so our students are pleasantly surprised by what our online experience is, and that's intentional. We'll talk a little bit on the next slide about the data of how long we've been doing this. These numbers were a little bit pre-COVID, so the numbers are even higher. But we've taught over 1,400 students in this online format, over 13,000 hours of online instruction. Our 8 master's degree are all online. We have 11 graduate certificates that are also online, 4 post-baccalaureate certificates, and over 300 courses that were specifically designed to be translated in this online yet interactive format. So another interesting thing to note is that we have over 200 faculty members who are specifically trained to teach in this format. So there's not that learning curve of a classroom, traditional classroom teacher saying, oh, I don't know how to get onto Zoom, right? These are faculty members who understand this format. They understand how to engage students. They understand how to create engaging activities and also be accessible to students. Not only that, but you also have online class meetings that are very much in this format. So you get to meet each other, not only in the boxes, but have opportunities to engage outside of the classroom as well. We have also, some of our faculty have won awards for online teaching. So we know that we're doing it at the highest level and that you, the student, benefit from that. Next slide, please. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Leek Francis for a minute to talk about the actual MPA program.
Thank you, Sheila. As Sheila shared, I'm Dr. Halima Leek Francis, and I'm the program director of the Public Administration program. And I'm going to talk to you today about not only the MPA degree, but also our stackable graduate certificates. So as you see here, our program is really about preparing you to work in the civic sector. And we define that relatively broadly. So oftentimes when people think about civic work, the first place they go is government. But we look at it in terms of government, the nonprofit sector, philanthropy, and even corporate settings that have an impact within the civic sector, recognizing that these things don't operate in a silo or in vacuums. So we really want to make sure that through our programming, you're able to navigate some of the complexities and some of the cross-sector experiences of working in the sector. Here we have mapped out what is included in the Master of Public Administration degree. So the MPA is comprised of 12 courses. It's an applied degree. So we're preparing you to go into practice. We're preparing you to go into the workplace to make a difference and to build a successful career. As Sheila talked about earlier, our faculty, they bring both academic qualifications and expertise from the field. And this is really important for us because you'll be learning from people who've not only studied this work, but they've done the work. And many of our faculty members, and I'll show you a slide, I believe, with them a little later on, but many of our faculty members have stood at the forefront of projects that have been highly important and valuable to many cities and areas where they live. Next slide. So now I'm going to talk about our graduate certificates, and we have here that they are stackable. And what that means is that our graduate certificates, they fold into or transfer into, if you will, the full MPA degree. So if you decide that you want to start with a graduate certificate in one of these areas that we have listed here, then you can complete that coursework, earn a certificate, and then continue on into the MPA program. And it's a pretty seamless process. We think that that's a really good opportunity and a great approach, particularly for individuals who might be working and they're looking for more of an immediate experience. So you want to build specialized expertise in one of these areas immediately that may help position you perhaps to make a career change or that will support the work that you're doing currently in your career. And then you may want to come back and then complete the full MPA. So we want to make that as seamless as a process as possible for you. So the certificates are stackable. The 4 areas that we have outlined here, we really took a look at the civic landscape and thought really intently about what were the levers, if you will, of civic infrastructure that kind of drive some of the key conversations that we're having and some of the key experiences that we've seen, not only in New Orleans, but nationally. So things like K through 12 education leadership, economic development, environmental management, and certainly the nonprofit sector and philanthropy. These are some areas that have a huge impact on our communities and on the work that we do. The economic development and environmental management certificates will be starting in the fall, but there are a couple of courses if you want to go ahead and apply to the program now. We are offering courses in those certificates this summer. So these are wonderful opportunities to build, like I said, that specialized expertise relatively early on in your graduate work. Next slide. So there are a host of career options when I think about the civic sector. And when people ask me about what can you do with a public administration degree or MPA, or what can you do with a certificate in one of these areas, And the answer is very broad, and this work touches pretty much every aspect of our lives. Myself, I've worked in the nonprofit sector and related to philanthropy for about 20 years. And most of my colleagues have worked in multiple different areas. They've worked in government, they've worked in nonprofits, and they've also worked in corporate settings. So being agile and being adaptable and being able to kind of float in and out of those spaces is really valuable for your career, and being able to understand those spaces is very valuable. Some of the careers that we have listed here include working in public finance, or working as a corporate responsibility manager, a public affairs specialist. Like I said, there are many opportunities, and we are seeing projected growth in the field, and for fields that are related to public administration, or fields that you would benefit from having graduate work in public administration. These numbers that we have here, these projections, were pre-COVID. Given what we have seen in the recent year, even, I would say that I would feel very comfortable in saying that the need has perhaps tripled in these fields, because everyone is grappling with issues around our civic spaces and our cities and our towns. So there are vast career opportunities, and it's really wide open in terms of the opportunities and the landscape that's there. So as we look to our faculty experts and our faculty in the program, you see here represented several different areas of expertise, several different content areas. And as I shared before in the previous slide, recognizing that when people work in fields related to public administration, they tend to move in various different domains, if you will. So our faculty is representative of that. They've worked and partnered across sector. They have worked in interdisciplinary projects and work within their areas. So when you look at our faculty, you see a group of individuals who have been at the forefront of innovation in this space, and they have been hugely successful in doing this work. So you benefit from that. They also, our faculty, I will say, they are very engaged with our students. They care a lot about you being able to achieve your goals. So I have faculty members who are regularly posting job opportunities. There are faculty members who, if you're doing a particular project or coursework, they may connect you with someone or refer you to someone to do an interview or an informational interview with. So our faculty members are constantly working with students to extend their networks and to extend their resources to students. So that's also one of the great things about our faculty who you'll work with in this program. So next, I'm going to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of some of our certificate areas. And looking first at the certificate in nonprofit and strategic philanthropy management, the courses that are involved in or a part of that certificate are listed here. You would select 4 courses. There are actually 5 listed, but you select 4 of the 5. And really, it's designed, this certificate is designed to really give you that deep dive and hands-on understanding of the impact of the nonprofit sector and the philanthropic sector as well within civic work. There are courses that deal with fund development or grant writing or grant seeking. So a few of the courses deal with those specific topics, and I get that question often. And they also prepare you to take on a leadership role in perhaps running a nonprofit. So understanding things like governance, understanding financial management, those types of things are very important as a part of the certificate. So the next certificate I'll talk about is our K through 12 education leadership certificate. And this certificate really looks at the education system, particularly K through 12, as a part of our civic infrastructure. So in doing so, it is designed for primarily non-instructional roles. So if you think about people who work in education policy, someone who might run a nonprofit organization that supports education, and certainly someone who is looking at education leadership on some level, this really gives a good framework for understanding how education works rather than the actual instruction process. So what does education look like as an institution or as a system? So our courses are designed around that notion and that level of understanding. So we really center things like equity, financial management and budgeting, leading an educational system. So those are some of the topics that we focus on within this certificate. And again, it's comprised of four courses that will allow you to complete a certificate in ed leadership. So our certificates that are starting in August of 21 or the fall, I'll start first with the Economic Development Certificate. Again, this certificate it prepares you to work in the space of business development, workforce development, understanding the economic infrastructure of communities and of cities, and all that goes in along with that. So the courses here in this particular concentration or certificate grapple with some of the uncertainties and the complexities that we see in the space of economic development. As we all know, our cities cannot thrive unless they have strong economic infrastructure. And this certificate really prepares students to really understand what goes into that. So it looks at things like sustainability and resilience. It looks at issues such as equity within economic development. So this is one of those certificates that is it's really forward thinking. And I'll say that about the economic development certificate as well as our environmental management certificate, all of them certainly, but these two, as I think about ones that really grapple with a contemporary presence in this space, these two are certainly oriented in that way. So for our next certificate, and our last one, is our environmental management and resilience certificate. This particular certificate is certainly highly relevant to the New Orleans landscape, given all that we grapple with here as it relates to the environment. But as I've spoken to students who are working in the space and doing projects that are around environmental management, this is an issue that reaches far and wide, no matter where you are. There are, I've seen projects come through that deal with water management, that deal with soil erosion and soil quality, air quality, all of those different things. So this certificate really allows us to, again, do a deep dive into some of those contemporary issues that are tied to our environmental spaces. It prepares you to tackle or address some of the complexities of environmental risks and environments, and also the impact on things like transportation, housing, and other elements of our society. So this concentration or this certificate is comprised of 4 classes like the others, and they're listed here. And again, focusing on issues of resilience, things like data, equity, all of those areas are highlighted in this certificate. Now, you may have noticed that I kind of floated back and forth between certificate and concentration, and I want to clarify that for you. If you do go into the full MPA, students have the option of declaring a concentration, and that's a specialized area. Our concentrations are aligned with our certificates. So again, this really sets you up to to be prepared to go seamlessly into the MPA, which I always like to advocate for and encourage. But it does give you the opportunity to get that kind of immediate exposure to some of the topics that we deal with more heavily in the program. So I will hand it back off to Sheila to talk about student support and success. And I'll also say, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Thanks, Halima. So you all can see we have an incredible program available to you all, but just a little bit more about what we offer our students in terms of the support they get. We are very much committed to not only helping our students get in the school, but to crossing the finish line. Once you come to the school, we feel like we partner with you for you to be successful, and hope that we will offer you the support that you need in order to graduate with your intended certificate or degree. Like I said, we have our own academic advisors that are just committed to the School of Professional Advancement. They are very accessible. I always tell folks that just on a practical level, all of our advisors in their email signatures have a link to their calendar. You could schedule an appointment with them on any given day. It's very easy to get on their calendar. It's not like one of those situations where sometimes I hear students in other schools say, I can't ever reach my advisor or get on their calendar. You could schedule an appointment for today if they had availability. Also, our faculty work as advisors. Our students create pretty strong relationships with their faculty members. It's part of the value added of going to a school like a Tulane that is not huge. You're not in 400-person lecture classes. And our faculty work in the field. Like we said, they're experts and have been doing this. So you want to get to know them and benefit from the knowledge and years of experience that they have. And they enjoy getting to know students. That's why they teach. We also have our own dedicated career advisor, Cynthia Washington, and she too is very accessible, and she's available to help students as you get a little bit further down towards graduation, help you set up your resume, put together your LinkedIn, help you practice interviewing when the time gets right for jobs, and also lots of industry have placements or jobs that are available for our graduates, and they will send Miss Washington their job openings, and she sends out emails every week to our students. This job is available. This internship is available. It's part of what you get. Employers want Tulane graduates, and so they come after us, and then we share that information with you all. You also have your peers as part of your infrastructure of success, and you do get to know them despite the fact that we do online classes. I hope you can see we're already available to you all and create relationships, as well as you have access to Tulane alumni. That is part of the value of your degree, is that when you become a Tulane alumni, you are automatically part of that worldwide network, and that's available to you as well. A little bit about ways that we help support our students and help them reach the finish line towards graduation is we have what's called credit for prior learning. And essentially, we know that many of our applicants have been working for years and come into this program with a certain level of expertise and knowledge. And we don't think that you need to repeat in the classroom what you already know as a professional coming in. So for instance, Halima mentioned a grant writing course. If you are an experienced grant writer and have been doing that for years in your workplace, please reach out to Dr. Leek Francis and say, this is an instance where I'd like to explore the option of credit for prior learning. If you can demonstrate to Dr. Leek Francis that you already have the knowledge that meets the learning objectives of a certain class, you can get up to 2 classes of credit already without taking those courses. So that's a savings of time and of money, of 2 classes worth of time, which is almost a semester. Certainly for a part-time student, it is a semester worth of work, and it's a savings of over $6,000 to our students. So we are not interested in having students waste time or money if they already come in with some level of expertise. Our application process is intentionally very straightforward. Our application is an electronic application. It lives, you can go to our website at sopa.tulane.edu. There's a big button at the top. When you press that button that says apply, you will be opened into the application portal, which lives on our website. And you'll see that we try to be very straightforward in what we ask students for. We do not require a GRE or any sort of standardized testing for admission into our program. There is a written statement as part of the application. I will say two things about the written statement. The content of the statement, your actual answers to the question prompts, is very important, so that Dr. Francis can learn a little bit about you, what you're bringing in as a student, your readiness for the program, and sort of your background experience, what you're going to contribute to your classes as an applicant. However, the quality of your writing is equally as important. So please take time to put together a well-written essay. There's a lot of writing in this program. So Dr. Leek Francis wants to know that writing is something that you're comfortable with. Take time, do rewrites and edits, check your grammar, your spelling, those sorts of things before you go ahead and submit it. Also, we're going to need a clear image of a government ID. That's, for most people, a picture of your driver's license. You can just upload that to the application. And then we're going to need transcripts from your undergraduate institution that you attended and any other institution that you received college credits for. You can send those electronically or by US mail. Our preference is electronically. We get them much more quickly and they don't get lost in the mail that way. The final thing we require is an application fee of $50. However, you do have that application fee waived. It's our thank you to you for attending this webinar today. So you should not get asked for an application fee. If you do, email us and we can go on the back end and waive it. Dr. Leek Francis, do you want to say something about the written statement?
Yes, I wanted to talk about the application overall. Another element for the public administration application is your resume. So as you are uploading that or including that, really demonstrating the quality of your professional experiences is really important as well, because our program serve such a wide spectrum of students. Oftentimes we get students who have significant professional experience, and that's something that is of value. So we want to see that demonstrated not only through your personal statements, but also through your resume. So just be sure to pay careful attention to those elements of the application.
Thank you. And then finally, our application deadlines. We are still accepting applications for summer term, which starts mid-May. That application deadline is May 1. If you very, very quickly get your application in, get accepted and register for classes by April 25th, you will get a early enrollment scholarship of $500. That would need to happen really quickly, but you may be able to do it under the wire if you have all of the elements of your application ready to submit. For those of you who are looking to start in the fall term, our application deadline is August 1, but we are accepting applications for the fall now, so you could go ahead and get it in. If you register for classes by June 1, then you also will receive the $500 early enrollment scholarship. And for those of you who are thinking ahead to starting in January for the spring term, January 1 is the deadline, but that application also is open. So you could go ahead and get that in. And if you register for classes by December 1, your first semester, you will receive a $500 scholarship. I highly encourage you to enroll by these early enrollment deadlines. It's $500 that is helpful to you. It gets deducted from your first semester tuition, and it's our way of encouraging students not to wait on getting their applications in. So a little bit about our affordability. Our tuition rate is significantly lower than the rest of the university. Our tuition rate for summer is $1,078 per credit hour. That is going to go up slightly in the fall to $1,119 per credit hour. Most courses are 3 credits. So for the fall term, that's going to be about $3,300 per class. We have very few fees added on top of the tuition rate. I'd like to be very specific about that when comparing us to other schools. Many schools, if you begin to add up their fees per semester, it could almost double the tuition rate. We do not have that as the case at Tulane SOPA. Our students, the vast majority of what you pay for is your tuition, and then there's a few minor fees on top of that, and we do that very intentionally. Many of our students do apply for financial aid. I would encourage you to start your FAFSA form. As soon as you start your application, the FAFSA can take a few weeks to get everything in. And then we do offer multiple types of aid, federal grants and loans. We are a proud yellow ribbon school for any veterans that are out there. And then we offer 20% discounts for active duty military, for veterans, for active and retired public safety personnel. So if you are, were a police or first responder, look into that. And then if you have received your undergraduate degree from a minority serving institution, HBCU, indigenous population institution, or Hispanic serving institution, please indicate that on the application, and you too will receive a 20% scholarship tuition discount. So, and then also if you have credit for prior learning, if you have expertise that you bring in, there may be 2 classes that you don't have to take, and that in and of itself is also a savings. So please ask us more about that. I see a question about the Peace Corps. We had a Peace Corps scholarship right at the beginning of COVID, but that has expired. So we don't, Halima, I don't think that there's any more information about that. That has expired. We gave that to students the first year, but that just expired. When students were called back, current Peace Corps students were called back from overseas, but we don't have a current program right now. Any other questions that I can answer for anyone? Dr. Leek Francis's contact information is on the screen. Also, I'm going to have my contact information put into the chat. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. We do consider the application process as sort of our beginning step in getting to know students. So we love to hear from students through the application process. There is no question that's too big or too small. And we're certainly here to help you get into the classroom as easily as possible. So, okay, so my sgold@tulane.edu is also in the chat for anybody who'd like to reach me. So are there any other questions that we can answer for you all? All right. Well, seeing none, we are super pleased that you took some time out of your day to meet with us today. We hope that you're interested in our program and that we'll be seeing your application soon. And more importantly, we hope that we'll be welcoming you to the classroom soon as an MPA student. So thank you, everyone. We hope that you have a great day.